he was trying to protect his son. And in the turn of events, the other boy had a handgun.
Tonight, a father of 11 children has died after a shooting at Ridge Powwow.
It's intense. It's pretty overwhelming when you get there.
A Red River Métis from Manitoba is competing on the world stage. Good evening, I'm Chris Chilcotin. Welcome to APTN National News. One man has died and another person is in custody after a shooting at the Ridge Powwow in South Dakota last Friday. And a warning, the video you are about to see may be disturbing. About 7 shots could be heard before crowds of people start to scream and run away from the area. Tribal police can then be seen running across the Powwow Arbor. According to the Guala Sioux Tribe Department of Public Safety, on August 2nd at around 10:20 p.m., a confrontation between several males took place on the powwow grounds, and during the altercation, a 57-year-old man was shot multiple times. The gunman fled the scene on foot but was later caught attempting to leave the area in a vehicle. The 57-year-old man was in serious but stable condition over the weekend and later died of his injuries on Sunday. The powwow was shut down for attendees and dancers on Friday. However, the event continued on Saturday and Sunday with increased security. Derek Thunderhawk, the nephew of the man who was shot and killed at the powwow, says his uncle died a true hero.
Was a warrior who made that sacrifice for the people.
Derek says his uncle, 57-year-old Thomas Thunderhawk Sr, was protecting his son from fighting another young man before he was shot. He was airlifted from Pine Ridge to Rapid City, South Dakota, where he passed away just 2 days later. On Sunday, Derek Thunderhawk organized a unity run in the community in honor of his uncle and blessed the spot where Thomas was shot with prayer, tobacco, and song. Thomas Thunderhawk Sr. was a singer, a drum maker, and a loving dad of 11 children. The community and family is currently fundraising for the Thunderhawk family to cover funeral costs. Here is what Derek Thunderhawk had to say about his Uncle Tom protecting his son and the young man who had the gun.
His son, because his son and another boy, they got into it, and it's just been kind of developing over a year. And they wound up at the powwow, and Tom was there, and he was trying to protect his son. And in the turn of events, the other boy had a handgun and fortunately unloaded the whole clip. I don't want to say anything negative about him. So I know he just probably wasn't dealt with a good hand in life. I mean, afflictions aside and whatnot, you know, this reservation is hard to grow up on for any of us. Violence is getting out there, and with us, there needs to be more gun control. Or at least, you know, why did an underage kid have a gun in the first place?
Water has begun spilling over a massive landslide damming the Chilcotin River in the central interior of BC. The slide happened last week at Farwell Canyon, around 22 kilometers south of Williams Lake, creating a lake about 11 kilometers long. Debris began flowing downstream from the Chilcotin River landslide area Monday morning. Provincial officials say expected fast-moving water poses a risk to human life, and there's a risk of further landslides. Evacuation orders have been issued in areas along parts of the Chilcotin and Fraser rivers. Officials ask that those living close to the rivers stay away. The Chilcotin National Government, which relies on salmon from the Chilcotin River, says it has major concerns.
We should have our salmon run going on right now. And now with this slide, there's no passageway. Whatever salmon's in the river system, they're darting off in neighboring streams and creeks and stuff like that, and I guess waiting for the debris to the dam to clear up.
Mountain Cree Chantal Sirwa, who is from Grand Cache, Alberta, who competed in an ultramarathon called the Death Race over the weekend, which is a grueling 118-kilometer long run. APTN's Chris Stewart spoke to her about what it takes to finish the challenging event.
This isn't your average marathon. A full marathon is just over 42 kilometers in length and can challenge the best runners. The Death Race, held in Grand Cache in northern Alberta, is almost 3 times that length at 118 kilometers. It has runners going up 3 mountain summits, crossing freezing rivers, and over 5 kilometers of elevation changes. To make it to the finish is the most important goal. 34-year-old Chantal Sirwa competed her second solo ultramarathon this past weekend. She told APTN that there were many challenges along the way.
We had such a dry summer, like all the streams and little creeks that you would get some refreshing and cool down in. They were all dried up, so you couldn't, even when you did have a little stream to dip your hat in or something, the water was warm, so there was not much relief.
She says it was the most physically demanding 22 hours in her life. It took her 22 hours and 47 minutes to complete.
Going straight up, so right off the bat on leg 2, as I started climbing, I felt a bit of nausea right away. And so feeling sick to your stomach is a challenge, because it's important to keep your nutrition up if you're going to be out there for as long as you are. So forcing yourself to try and get something down without it all coming up, trying to get your water in. So you have to take salt tabs and stuff to keep your electrolytes and all of the cramping at bay.
And what was it like crossing the finish line?
But the mental gruel to get through to the finish, to push yourself through despite all the pain and discomfort you're through. Once you reach that finish, I don't know how to describe it. It's just so emotional in the sense of, like, you can't believe that you endured the level of suffering that you did.
She told APTN that she might do it again next year and hopes to see more Indigenous competitors. Better her than this reporter. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
The 2024 Alberta Indigenous Games kicked off this week in Edmonton, and it will run between August 8th to the 17th. Indigenous teams from across Alberta and the country will compete in basketball, softball, volleyball, soccer, and many more in venues in and around Edmonton. It's open to athletes as young as 5 to 21 years old, and in all skill levels from beginner to advanced players. Last year's event had over 5,000 athletes, and this year looks to have even more participants.
This year will be our 10th Alberta Indigenous Games. We're going to have over 6,000 athletes across 18 sports. We have a lot of cultural events, 2 powwows, a round dance that's open to the public to come out, as well as we have free sports that are still open for registration for archery, track and field, cross country, and flag football. And we have a lot of girls that are just coming back from the national championships that were on the national Indigenous teams, as well as James Gladue from Team Alberta Football. Come meet them, play with them. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm going to get some of my friends who are on the national team with me at the Women's Nationals, and we're going to play. It's going to be really great because it'll teach kids about flag, and hopefully one day we can grow that flag into tackle, because I think that's something that a lot of kids would love.
Indigenous nations in BC say their cultural identity is at risk with the loss of cedar trees. Plus, one of our very own APTN staff will be competing on the world stage in baton twirling. That story when we come back.
I used to think a lot about what other people thought about me, and recently in the past couple of years I've just been twirling for myself. So that's been really a huge change for me.
Welcome back. A Red River Métis from Winnipeg will be spinning her way to Sweden for the World Championships in baton twirling. Taking place this week, APTN's own Laura Timtishin will be competing against 17 other countries for gold. Sav Jonza met up with her during one of her final practices.
For 15 years, Laura Tintition has been honing her skills in the sport of baton twirling. Now, the 24-year-old is off to Sweden to twirl in the 2024 World Championships for the second and last time.
It's intense. It's pretty overwhelming when you get there, but it's so amazing to watch the best of the best, be the best of the best on the floor, and to learn from those people as well and just be a part of it.
Tintition isn't new to competitions. The Red River Métis competed in her first national championship when she was 11 years old and brought home gold with Team Canada in an international competition 2 years later. With 5 other international competitions and 2 silver medals under her belt, Tintition says after this championship, she'll turn to coaching.
It's kind of a different challenge, I'd say. Instead of you having to put the pressure on yourself to catch the next trick or do the next big thing, you're trying to help little ones figure out who they are in the sport and what they can do. So there's 3 main aspects of baton. So aerials, which is your big tricks, throwing the baton in the air and doing gymnastics or spins underneath it. Then there's contact material, so it's really fast flips really close to the body and always keeping the baton moving. And then rolls, so rolling literally on your body, on your elbows, on your neck, on your arms. So those are really the 3 main components that put together a routine.
The illusion cartwheel is her favorite trick to perform. There are around 18 countries competing in the World Championships. To beat the pressure, Tintition says she focuses on having fun and enjoying herself.
I used to think a lot about what other people thought about me, and recently in the past couple of years I've just been twirling for myself. So that's been really a huge change for me. Yeah.
What kind of changes have you noticed with that?
Just my confidence level, I'd say. Like the worst thing that you can do in baton is drop on the floor. So it's a penalty every time you drop the baton during your routine. So I found that I was droppy and coming off the floor, even if I only had 1 drop, I'd still be upset with myself just because I was always thinking about, oh, that person in the audience saw me drop, or maybe my parents aren't proud of me, or whatever it may have been. And yeah, just learning to twirl for myself and for my coach, that was a really big improvement for me.
Despite the rigorous training and agility necessary to excel at the sport, Tintition says not everyone respects it. Baton twirling wasn't recognized as a sport of association by Sport Manitoba for many years and still isn't recognized by Ontario's Sport Federation.
It takes so much time, so much dedication, just like any Olympic sport or hockey or basketball or whatever it may be that you're doing. So many hours in the gym, so much dedication. It takes the same amount of work as any other event, I think even more sometimes, keeping your flexibility up, keeping your skills up, always pushing to do the next hardest trick, more elements under the baton. So I'd say to the haters that it's a real sport.
The World Championship event takes place August 4th to 11th in Sweden. Sav Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Thank you, Sav, and good luck to Laura. The annual Treaty 5 Summit is set to begin this week at the Lower Fort Garry National Historic Site outside of Winnipeg. The event, which started in 2018 and is attended by all the First Nations in Treaty 5, is being hosted by Kanunjeshtagon First Nation this year, and some of the topics include sovereignty and Indigenous laws, developing a Treaty 5 framework, and understanding the agricultural benefit claims process. TR Wheatley joins us now on site with host chief Tony Travers of Kanunjeshtagon First Nation. TR.
Yeah, thanks, Creason. So we're here at the Lower Fort Garry National Historic Site, where I'm joined now by Chief Tony Travers. Tell me a little bit about this summit this week.
Hi, it's Chief Tony Travers, live at 5 from Treaty 5. Kanunjeshtagon First Nation. We're hosting the annual Treaty 5 Summit from Lower Fort Garry. It's being held on August 6, 7, and 8 at the just outside of Winnipeg.
Yeah, and so tell me a little bit about some of the people. You said there's a lot registered already.
Yes, we have 1,200 registered as of Friday, but we're the walk-up crowd usually is pretty large, so we're expecting a couple thousand at least here.
And so this, how many nations will be here?
There's over 40 First Nations that are a part of Treaty 5, so we're expecting a representative from each and every one of them.
So why is it so important to have a gathering like this?
To commemorate our historic treaties. I think we're focused more on actually enforcing our treaties now and enhancing our treaty rights with our First Nations people.
So some of that includes talking about, I guess, Indigenous sovereignty and Indigenous law?
Yes, exactly. What we're trying to establish is that our treaty rights are mobile. You know, you can take them wherever you are. Your treaty rights should be yours to use. You know, your right to education, right to health services, housing, and things of that nature.
And then I guess one of the bigger topics, the agricultural benefits, aka cows and plows.
Cows and plows. I've got cows and plows on my mind every day. I've got a band member usually calling, "Where's my cows and plows?" But we do have, I know our First Nation is actually in the process right now of negotiating for our claim. They have an expedited process now, so I think a number of the Treaty 5 First Nations are now in the process of either being recognized for their claim or are in the process of establishing their claim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just talk about some of the other stuff that is expected this week here.
We have a number of dignitaries from various First Nations that will be speaking. I think the Premier will be here tomorrow to say some regards. I know the Grand Chiefs will be here. A number of chiefs from the local areas that will be invited to speak. So we were, like I said, we're expecting a large crowd. Large attendance. I know, I think pretty much, well, half of my First Nation is here. We do have a campsite set up just outside here, so we have other membership that are staying in local hotels.
And then from my understanding, this kind of rotates and goes to different communities, so it's kind of every year you guys kind of move around, right?
Yes, usually there's a host nation for the annual celebration. This year we are the host. Our First Nation is 265 kilometers away from Winnipeg. We don't actually have the facilities to host it at our home nation, not as of yet. But Lower Fort Garry was a site that was previously used, so we were able to use this site again.
And then obviously, you know, we're talking about treaty issues, the importance of sovereignty within the Cree Nation. Well, not just the Cree, but all the nations that are represented in Treaty 5, rather. But, you know, it's also a family event?
Yes, exactly. I know we have a number of families. Like I said, I think that's one of the biggest things, is to teach our young people about their treaty rights, our treaty history, and the reclamation of their rights as sovereign people of the first peoples of this land.
And so obviously Treaty 5, but I guess, are you welcoming everybody to come if they want to come check it out?
Yes, all nations. We're hoping to have a large attendance of anyone that would like to attend. It's 3 days of events. There's various presentations. We have a number of teepees here that are set up where we'll be doing some learning as well. We do have a sweat lodge set up in the back, so I think there's two sweat lodges a day. Men, women, transgendered, LGBTQ are all welcome.
Mm-hmm. All right, so thank you for your time today. And like he said, this is happening here all week at the Lower Fort Garry National Historic Site. So if you're in the area and you want to check it out, like he said, everyone's welcome. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, TR. Stick around because we still have today's photo of the day. Plus, we'll tell you how Indigenous tourism is booming in Manitoba. We're back in less than 3 minutes. Stick around. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Today's photo of the day comes from Toby Wilson. She was on her way back from Vancouver Island and made a stop over at Lake Louise just before the sun went down for the evening. Beautiful picture, Toby. Thank you for sending that. Don't forget to share your summer vacation pictures and show us what you're up to. Send to share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. St. John's 24, Charlottetown 22. Nuujooak 12, Nain 16. Southern Quebec, Saguenay 21, Val-d'Or 23. Southern Ontario, Toronto 23, Sault Ste. Marie 26. Timmins 23, Big Trout Lake 24. Northern Manitoba, God's Lake 24, Puckatawagan 22. Winnipeg 25, Dauphin 24. Swift Current 23 and Yorkton 20. Northern Saskatchewan, LaRange 22, Stony Rapids 18. Northern AB, High Level 25, Peace River 22. Medicine Hat 26, Edmonton 18. Bellacoola 30, Penticton 31. Prince George 24, Dees Lake 26. Old Crow 28, Mayo 28 there as well. Wati 21, Norman Wells 32. Inuvik 31, Sax Harbor 16. Chesterfield 14, Cambridge Bay 18. And Arctic Bay 8, and Aglulik 14. Two First Nations in Northern Ontario are coming together for what is being called a historic cultural event. CTV's Lindsay Alick shares the details.
Two canoes, two nations, joining together in a journey along the Chilcotin River to the Iroquois and Anishinaabe battle site at Collins Inlet.
The historic value in it is our communities. This is the first time the two nations have paddled together in the same boat on this water to a site that once echoed battle between our two nations. So today's about unifying.
It's important for our visitors to understand that yes, we have similarities, but we are different as well. Having different land bases and different teachings and histories, there's so much to learn across Canada and even in Ontario, and we all have different stories, but yeah, quite similar. And it's nice to see the two nations coming together to just show that alliance and show Indigenous tourism why we're here and what we're here to do.
Youth, elders, and invited guests shared wampum belt teachings, oral history, traditional foods, and symbolic gestures of peace and goodwill. The cultural exchange doesn't end here, though.
Day two will be at the Wakwamkong Arts and Music Festival, where our Haudenosaunee friends will share some of their smoke dance and some of their culinary experiences on the main stage at the music festival. And then on Saturday in our cultural pavilion, it'll be a little bit more intimate, where they'll again share the history of the smoke dance, and then they'll also do some corn experiences, some culinary experiences at the pavilion.
The two nations say they hope other Indigenous communities see that partnership between nations is beneficial for all.
Using Indigenous tourism as that vehicle to have that nation-to-nation dialogue, but to also inspire some communities to use Indigenous tourism as a way to reclaim those stories and to share some of that history.
The cultural exchange will continue in Six Nations from August 16th to the 17th, when Wakwamkong Tourism visits the Haudenosaunee territory. Lindsay Alick, CTV News, Killarney.
Indigenous tourism is booming in the heart of the country, according to a new report by the Conference Board of Canada. In Manitoba, the number of Indigenous-owned businesses more than doubled between 2019 and 2023, jumping from 81 to 170. In the last year, the province's Indigenous tourism sector added nearly $91 million to its GDP, $124 million to Canada's GDP, and created over 2,000 jobs. Arts, culture, and heritage-focused ventures like cultural festivals, artist markets, and museums dominated the sector, followed by accommodation and recreation and outdoor activities. The report says the recent growth underscores the need to continue empowering Indigenous communities through increased economic opportunities and cultural preservation. And that's your evening APTN National Newscast for this Monday, August 5th. Just one more month until our kids are back in school. Where did the time go? From everyone at our HQ in Winnipeg and from our staff from across the country, hi miigwech, masicho. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow.